All right. All right. As we are moving into administering the oaths, let me just check and make sure everyone has gotten back in that needs to get back in. Awesome. As we move to administering the oaths, the way that we will proceed, Co-Chair Dooley will call an individual's name. He will read a statement to you, and then you will raise your right hand. Please be on camera and affirm with an I. And then I will do the same. So I will call someone's name, read the statement. You will affirm with an I with your right hand raised on camera, and we will move through the members that we have present today. So Tig Dooley.
Yeah, I'll get started. So I'll start with Co-Chair Johnson. So if you'll raise your right hand and repeat the oath. I, Melinda Johnson, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee.
I, Melinda Johnson, do solemnly swear, actually, I do affirm that I will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Correction Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Andrew.
Well, let me throw you in there, right?
You want to get me in first? Okay,
get
sure.
you in there. All right. So if you can affirm the statement, I, Tig Dooley, do solemnly affirm or swear that I will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee.
I, Tig Dooley, do solemnly swear that I will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
All right, now I'll proceed. Andrew, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee?
I, Andrew Gearing, solemnly affirm that I will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Correction Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Keisha's not here, right? So John Bowen, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee?
Excuse me, I, John Bowen, swear that I will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Correctional Advisory Committee.
Thank you. I believe Scott Simple is not on. And just so everyone knows, we under the legislation have 10 days to administer these oaths, so we'll catch up with those who aren't with us tonight. But the next on my list is Daryl. There you are. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee?
I, Darren McGraw, do affirm and solemnly swear to what you said.
To administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee.
To administer the affairs of the advisory committee.
Okay, thank you very much.
I was trying to write it down, but I'm going to be that guy.
We should have put it in the chat. Maybe we can do that.
Nah, no worries, no worries. I was like, I'm going to screw this up. They're going to call me, but we got it done.
We got it done.
I'm going to put it in there just in case anybody else needs it. 1 second.
Oh, so now you're going to put it in there,
Yeah,
Ty?
yeah.
Now
Right, we got 2 more people to go.
That's how we're going to do it? Okay.
Nobody else is going to stumble.
All right, so I will move to Dr. Howell. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee?
So I'm going to open my chat. I, Ben Howell, do solemnly affirm that I will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee.
Thank you. John Sapoli. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee?
I, John Sapoli, do solemnly swear that I will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee.
Thank you. And in the absence of Rena Kapoor and Melvin Medina, that will conclude our oaths for the evening. Thank you. At this time, we're going to move into a bit more of an understanding and preparation for the Ombuds nominations, and I will turn it to Co-Chair Dooley.
Thanks. Okay, so our main job under the statute, under the PROTECT Act, is to find and recommend candidates for the new position of corrections ombuds. And so I'm gonna, again, you may have looked at the legislation, you may already be familiar with this. Certainly for some of our friends joining us, I think this will be very familiar. But I think it's important that we understand the statutory description of the position, and then we can go forth and try to find someone capable of filling the role. Just to be clear, it's a new position. There was previously, as I think Daryl alluded to, an ombuds whose remit was specific to juvenile incarcerated persons. And forgive me if I was the one who misspoke earlier using dated language. This position replaces that position, and has a broader remit to handle complaints and to address the concerns of the entire population. It's also moved, the position had been in the Department of Corrections, it's now in the Office of Governmental Accountability, and is meant obviously to be an independent role. So the role is set out in the PROTECT Act, which is codified now at General Statutes 1881 QQ. And the Ombud services as described in the legislation include evaluating the delivery of services to incarcerated persons by the Department of Corrections, reviewing periodically the non-emergency procedures established by the department to carry out its functions, and evaluate whether any of those procedures conflict with the rights of incarcerated persons, receiving communications from persons in custody regarding decisions, actions, omissions, policies, procedures, rules, or regulations of the department, conducting site visits of correctional facilities, reviewing the operation of correctional facilities and non-emergency procedures employed at these facilities, including but not limited to use of force procedures, recommending revisions to the department's policies and procedures, and taking, quote, all possible actions in order to secure and ensure the rights of persons in custody, which includes lobbying, public education, and also litigation as a last measure. And finally, publishing a semi-annual summary of all Ombud services, which are the previously mentioned things. The position, it's anticipated that this position will have staff within available funds. As I understand it, the amount that has been appropriated for fiscal years 2023 and 24 is $677,581, which is intended to cover the salary and benefits of the ombuds and up to 6 support staff. For those like me, unfamiliar with this, my understanding is that the role is meant to is modeled after the Office of the Child Advocate. So that the salary will be similar. That's also a position that has, I believe, 6 support staff. It's got a website. This person will set up a website as well. So it might be useful to check out that the Office of Child Advocate, to have a little bit more of an understanding of who it is, or the position that we're meant to fill. Bottom line is it's a very, very important role.
What?
We have somebody off mute, maybe.
Oh, you said that on it all?
Is it possible to mute Amina? Or
X. Thank you.
sorry Sorry.
Michael, you might not realize you're muted. You can mute your mic, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have Mary, I think. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. I hope everyone understands that it's a significant new role with a lot of independence. We need, and it's a full-time job with an impressive salary, and so the folks that we should be thinking about are people capable of fulfilling all those responsibilities. I see a mention from Ben Mel Medina is now on. Hi.
Yes, welcome back, Melvin.
Apologies to the chair and to fellow commission members for joining late. I got back home a little bit later than I anticipated for a work event, but I'm here, and apologies. It won't happen again.
No problem. After Tig is complete with the Ombud's description, we'll just want to jump back to do your oath.
Yeah, thanks and welcome. So our specific role is to solicit applications, interview the most qualified applicants, and select at least 3 and no more than 5 to pass on to the governor for appointment and confirmation by the General Assembly. We whether you know it or not, we have a website, and we will be publishing the names of these individuals on that site. Once we have selected the finalists, so to speak, there will also be a public hearing where members of the public can weigh in on the candidates. The list that we select is meant to be ranked, and if the governor fails to appoint someone from this list within 30 days, then the top ranked person is submitted to the assembly for confirmation. So we should understand our role as being a significant one, even though it is a gubernatorial appointment. Our nominations and rankings will be quite important in determining who actually fills this role. So given how important it is, and given that it's the ombuds who really has a lot of the responsibility to implement the PROTECT Act, we hope to play a big role in that as well. But the ombuds is a very significant position. We want to get moving on that process sooner rather than later. In speaking with Melinda, we think we probably should collectively be settling on some sort of job description and posting and figure out where that should go. And I think we'll probably deal with that a little bit more at our next meeting. But in the meantime, we should also be, in addition to thinking about the role, thinking about people for the role. Obviously, it'll be open to anyone to apply to, but our networks, hopefully, collectively, will have some good candidates. So please, each of you, each of us, including members of the public on the Zoom, should be thinking of folks, soliciting folks, and bringing them to the table to be discussed when we get to that point. I think, Melinda, we didn't talk about this. I'm sure either you or I'm certainly happy to take a stab at sort of a job description, but if there's anyone else on the committee who feels capable of doing that, we could delegate that as well. And then I think there's no reason why we can't collectively pass it back and forth by email between now and our next meeting. So if there's a volunteer, that's great. If not, I'm happy to take a stab at it. Okay. I see no yellow hands or any color hands coming up. Ben, sorry.
I want to raise my hand. I'm not the volunteer, but just to ask a question about the statute. In the statute, are there any sort of parameters about what the ombudsman, what that qualifications that person should have?
No, and not specific. It does. I can't recall the precise language, but it says like a person capable of fulfilling the role, something like that. There's a weird part that suggests to me that it has to be a resident of Connecticut, but it's sort of vaguely stated, like the people sent to the governor have to be residents, but not necessarily all applicants. We can figure that out, and I'll assume that's probably partly my job to suss through the legislation. But I don't think that we need to limit it to Connecticut residents immediately, although, you know, naturally that would be the most likely field for candidates. Any other questions on the sort of the job description? What I've taken is essentially straight out of the legislation, but obviously we're going to be looking for a really dynamic person who is both committed to these services as described in the legislation, and also capable of starting a new office and running a staff.
I'd be happy to work with you on that as a partner in that if it's helpful.
Great, I appreciate that. So Mel and I will take the first cut at it and circulate it to the rest of the committee. And I think we would want to be in a position to sort of finalize that and get the word out at our next meeting.
Awesome. Excellent. So next meeting, our focus will be specific to the process of getting the word out there. So what our application process will look like, where are we posting, where are we listing, and I'll be connecting with Kristen and Amina in advance to get any advice as to how other committees and bodies have went about the appointment of ombudsmen or the posting of that listing. And we will be able to move forward in our next meeting with deciding on that overall process. Any other questions on this item before we administer the oath to Melvin?
One question, sorry. Get used to this, y'all. On the job posting, this is technically a state of Connecticut job. So are there some requirements that we would have to follow through on employment process, posting, all that related to state government?
Yeah, I suspect so, and I don't know them all offhand. I think that, you know, when Melinda's saying we're going to have to hook up with our liaisons, that's part of it. But yeah, it's certainly a state job, and whatever requirements come with that are going to be attending this position as well.
One thing that will be helpful to know when we connect with the liaison is whether there's seniority in state employment as consideration in the application process. I think that would be good to know, versus like open to all of Connecticut, or if there's preference based on unions or whatever it may be.
Yeah, great point. I'm glad it's you who'll be helping out with this. Well.
Awesome. Any other question or comment from any committee members on this specific item?
I have a quick question. I mean, since this is a relatively new process for a lot of us, I would sort of, there might be an opportunity to learn from other groups that have created these lists. Will there be an opportunity for us to reach out to, I don't know, other entities in the state that have had to go through this process to learn some of the pitfalls that maybe they could have avoided if they knew more about it?
It's a great idea. I mean, like I said, I think the child advocate is the sort of go by, and I think certainly I had intended to reach out, but maybe what I could do is once we have someone to discuss who's had that experience, sort of open it up, like for a call like this. You know, wouldn't be one of our formal meetings, but anybody who's interested in you know, discussing it with the folks who went through this for that position could join that call. I see Daryl's got a hand raised.
As the brother Mel said, get used to this, right? So I'm thinking that I have to make the point for people with lived experience, meaning experience with the criminal justice system. I also want to make sure when we're writing a job description that they're not things that discriminate against individuals that may not have the education level or so on and so forth. I want to be clear that when we do something like that, we want to make sure that this is an opportunity open for everyone, and not just we're just making it a pathway for someone else who may not be as passionate, but may not have the education or may not have certain things, but they have the passion and the knowledge to work within this role. But because of certain criterias are eliminated based on that. So I want to make sure that if we're creating the job description, I would love to be, I definitely want to see it in the early stages to make sure that those things are inclusive and that we're not excluding anyone.
Yeah, great point. And, I was sort of emphasizing some of the demands of the job, but that certainly does not mean that I don't think there's any statutory requirements in terms of education background, anything like that. And I do understand that there's been some questions about whether this person has to be a lawyer, and that's certainly not the case. Speaking of one of that tribe, we may be better off with that one. But yeah, I think Mel and I will circle up to get the ball rolling, but then absolutely include everybody. And I think the more input we have, the better. With the idea that we'll sort of settle on something and vote on something at the next meeting.
Last call for questions or concerns on this agenda item. All righty, seeing none. Mr. Melvin Medina, if you can raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear to affirm or affirm that you will diligently and honestly administer the affairs of the Corrections Advisory Committee?
I do.
Thank you, sir. The I do is sufficient. I know Daryl's like, why wasn't it sufficient? I said that at the beginning, though. I did say the I do is sufficient. So
I did not hear that. I did not hear that. Mel, we got to talk, bro. I already see how this is going.
all righty. At this time, our public has been very patient. If there are no further questions or comments by committee members, I do want to open up for public comment.
I'd love to give Mel an opportunity to introduce himself as well, because we all did as well.
Thank you, Dr. Howell.
Sure. Hey, folks. My full name is Melvin J. Medina. I go by Mel. I'm born and raised in Connecticut and have dedicated my professional career to civil liberties and civil rights work. Large portion of that career was with the American Civil Liberties Union, both the Connecticut office and our national office. And criminal justice is close to my heart in terms of reform. Both because I just believe that reform is needed, but also because my family has been impacted by the criminal justice system, both in Puerto Rico and here in the state of Connecticut. I've had family members on all spectrum of the criminal justice process, both being victims of crime, also having been incarcerated. And it's near and dear to my heart because so much of the struggles that Connecticut families have to go through, a portion of Connecticut families confront them with the criminal justice system and often don't lift them out of the situations they're in, but if anything, entrench them in challenging situations. So for those reasons, I'm excited to be part of this commission in particular, because there's so much that Connecticut does not know that occurs in Connecticut prisons, good and bad. But this committee is going to be largely responsible for ensuring that when Connecticut takes the position that we will care for people in Connecticut prisons, that there is meaningful independent oversight to ensure that we're caring for people and improving their lives, if that is the ultimate goal. And that requires a strong independent committee and also an ombudsman. So very happy to work with you all in this process.
Thank you so much, Melvin, and thank you again for introducing yourself, and welcome back home. Are there any other comments or questions from committee members before we open up for public comment? Seeing none, Brian Anderson.
I just wanted to introduce myself. I didn't want to be rude. I see there's public comment. I represent a lot of corrections employees, and I'm very impressed with this group. I see a lot of advocates I've worked with, usually cooperatively, not always in agreement, and just wanted to wish all well in the endeavor.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Any other public comments?
Hi, I just want to say I'm really excited about this work. And I'm just hoping that we get the right people. I'm hoping we don't put any barriers in place statutorily, like you have to have a certain background to be able to do this work. I want this to be truly independent. I have a son who was almost totally destroyed by the system. I have a cousin who just died in the system last month. So this is really, really important to me that we have people in place who care about incarcerated people. And I'm not expecting anything less. And I have to say, with Brian on the call, I did meet with him when we were working with the Protect Act. And like he said, we didn't always agree, but we did agree that the majority of the people in prison are not a threat at all, that they just want to do their time. And so we have to keep that in mind. We're not gonna, he said it was like 10% of the people that are a problem, the rest of them are not. So as we work to transform, because for me, it's not reform, because you can't fix this system. As we transform this system, that we keep that in mind, that the majority of the people in prison are there, but they are not a threat to anyone. And we should return people back to their homes better than they went in, not broken in spirit and physically and mentally. And so I'm going to be watching this process the entire time. That's how much it means to me.
Thank you, Barbara, for your comment and for your passion. We truly appreciate that. Cindy. See your hand raised. Cindy,
Here I am.
that
Here
mute button, I gotcha.
The mute button. So my name is Cindy Prisio. A lot of you have seen me actually with Barbara Fair and others. I see one of my favorite moms on the phone, Colleen Lord, Kevnisha. I mean, we've worked pretty closely together on a number of things. And after watching and hearing the legislature last year, and it was all about ending solitary or certainly reducing it, and having what we heard from the people with the lived experience, what we heard from them denied as if it were untrue. And so I'm really hoping the council early on will set some values. And one of the values should be that we accept what we're hearing. We've been fighting this stuff, and the reforms or the positive outcomes keep rolling back, not going forward, not getting implemented. So, that's all I want to say. I'm looking for a fair group of people and a people that really want some innovative change. And that's what Connecticut's been lacking across the board in any of our commissions, councils. And so I do have high hopes for this group of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, for those recommendations and comments. We truly appreciate that. Attorney Krajewski, followed by Tim, followed by Colleen, and that's just by the order on the screens.
I would like to echo what Barbara Fair said and what Cindy Prisio said, and I have high hopes for the group. I've worked with a number of people on this group before in terms of working on reforming or using the court system to attempt to find ways in which we can create dignity for the people who are incarcerated in a system that is racist, misogynist, and hateful. And I know that there are people on the board who are going to disagree with what I say, but the litigation that I deal with on a day-to-day basis tells me that the state of Connecticut repeatedly refuses to treat people who are incarcerated as people. And it's frustrating for me when I read the Hartford Court story from February 6, 2023, talking about members of the board who have liked Confederate groups on Facebook and claiming that they may not do this, or that was a mistake, but like, we're in a very pivotal moment in our country's history right now. And I wish this board the best. And I hope that we can find solid leadership with people like former Commissioner Semple to rein in some things. And I wish the board the best. And I'm hoping for a lot, because what I see on a day-to-day basis with the Office of the Attorney General's Public Safety Division is brutality, and we need to rein it in. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Attorney Kraske. I in no way want to dissuade anyone from speaking, but just as a reminder, we are on a timed link right now, and there are 8 minutes left for this particular session. Tim?
Yeah, hi to everyone. Glad to be here. Excited about the committee, the advisory board, having very quickly just formerly incarcerated 27 consecutive years from 1980 to 2007, and multiple years after that for minor offenses, violations of halfway house rules, things of that nature. So I'm excited about this opportunity and look forward to lending my voice as a person who has approximately 40 years of incarceration, again, in and out. And I'm just excited to be here and congratulate all of you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments and your remarks. Colleen?
Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen, and I'm here with Stop Solitary. I'm a member of that board, and I'm also a member of the local NAMI board, which has a focus on decriminalizing mental illness. My son was a victim of homicide a few years ago in New Haven at the hands of correctional officers, and one officer was convicted of assault, and there's more to come. And I just wanted to give my personal thank you to everyone on the board, this committee. Since my son was killed, there hasn't been a lot of progress, and this, as others have said, is beginning to give me hope. And I'm proud of Connecticut that we were able to get this done, and I hope it's going to have the effect that everyone who voted for it and testified for it intends, which is to protect the humanity of those who are currently experiencing incarceration in Connecticut. And I would love to continue to learn more about the Norway system that Barbara and others have gone to, and I would love to see our system move toward that. And I guess I could go on and on, but that's all I'm going to say. But I just wanted to give my personal thanks.
And thank you, Colleen. Thank you for that comment, for the work you continue to do. Representative Porter?
Thank you, Melinda, and good evening, everyone. I really do want to align my comments with Colleen. Apropos that I would go after you. I am excited about the Correction Advisory Committee. I'm hopeful. I'm inspired. I definitely believe that Connecticut is a leader and that we can take this to the next level and we can do what needs to be done. We often talk about getting things done. I always say, let's get it done right. So I am putting all of my confidence in you all, and I want to congratulate you all, the ones that are present that actually took that oath. And I believe that you will fulfill that to the best of your ability. And anything that I can do in my capacity as a lawmaker, or I sit on Women Against Mass Incarceration. I also serve on Stop Solitary. I have a son who was previously incarcerated. Never thought it'd be my testimony. So it's not just what I'm doing professionally. It is personal. It is intimate. I care. These people matter, and you all matter. And I just want to thank you for your commitment to this cause. Thank you so very much. And thank you, Ms. Barbara, for your leadership and for your team that has stood with you time and time again. Thank you, Melinda.
Thank you, Representative Porter. Thank you for your work and your continued representation. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll entertain, Anne, sorry, see ya.
Hi, I'm really glad we're having this first meeting. We look forward to the work of this supposedly independent advisory council to pick the ombuds position. It's much needed and long overdue. And it's been an honor to follow Barbara in this work and follow her leadership and commitment to what we're doing. I hope everyone can approach this with, in their hearts, the best interest of people who are incarcerated, and understand and recognize the humanity of these people and the rights, as someone said earlier, many people incarcerated who have not even been, as Andrew said, have been convicted. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I hope we get a wonderful ombuds person. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. We hope to secure a wonderful ombuds person. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll second it.
Wonderful. Any reservations? Seeing none. Anyone abstain? Anyone stand against it? If you're in favor, please say aye or raise your hand, your virtual hand.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you all and have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.